Welcome to the Sailing and Cruising the East Coast of the United States podcast. I'm Bela Musits. This episode is part of a series I recorded with Mike Malekoff during our sailing trip up the East Coast. We were relocating his Hunter 44 Deck Salon from Brunswick, Georgia to Burlington, Vermont. Please note that the video version of this podcast primarily features photographs and short video clips I captured along our journey. The audio was recorded on the boat, typically in the evenings at anchor or in a marina, although we did record a few segments while underway. Join Mike and me as we explore the United States East Coast aboard his Hunter 44 Deck Salon. I hope you enjoy this podcast. Okay, we're recording. 3, 2, 1. Hello, and welcome to the Sailing and Cruising the East Coast of the United States podcast. I'm Bela Musits.
And I'm Mike Malekoff.
Well, Mike, we made it. We left Brunswick, Georgia, and now the boat is up in Burlington, Vermont. You're on the boat in Burlington. I'm back in upstate New York, and we made it safe and sound.
We did. We left April 3rd and arrived here early June. And it was, as I like to say, not a vacation, but an adventure. We made it safe and sound. And overall, now that I've had a week to catch my breath, it for the most part went fairly smooth. I think we did a great job in certainly I know I did the day-to-day planning, but you were very good in helping make those plans go smooth. And yes, we made it here. And as I say, no injuries and the boat's floating. So it was a successful trip.
Yeah, I agree. I think the last episode we did was from Whitehall and our adventure in Whitehall, New York, right at the end of the Champlain Canal, the northern end of the Champlain Canal, up to Chipman's Point. And then the last day, which we haven't talked about yet on the trip, was Chipman's Point to Burlington, Vermont, which, if I remember correctly, it was, 2 weeks ago now. It was a smooth, uneventful trip.
It was a little over 40 miles, I think close to 45 miles, all on Lake Champlain. Yes, we left Chipman's. We were actually on a T-dock on the very outside of their location. So getting off in the morning was a piece of cake. We didn't need any help. We just let the lines loose. There was very little wind, and away we went. And it was a smooth trip. There was very little wind, of course, which of course I was going to say meant no sailing, but of course the mast was on the boat laying flat, so we weren't going to sail. But it turned out that any wind was from the south, and actually, if anything, helped us pick up speed. And I think we were doing 6.5, 7 knots most of the way without pushing the engine, and arrived in Burlington early in the afternoon. And my home base marina here in Vermont, they were excited to see us, and it was fairly easy. I think we did go to the fuel dock first to pump out, and then we moved to a slip that was very easy to get into. There was a little discrepancy as to which slip we were going to be in, so we went back and forth inside the marina a couple of times. But again, there was no wind, and we found the slip that we were supposed to be in because we were extra long because the mast was on the boat. So instead of being 44 feet, we were like 55 feet. So we had to be on a longer slip. But we did get in. And what was really enjoyable to me, well, first, you left the same day because I don't know whether you were excited to see your wife or to get away from me, but we were in early enough so that you were able to get a rental car and leave. And then my wife came the same day, and it was funny because so many people in the marina are the same people that were here when we had the boat here for several summers. And it was amazing that they all came over and started greeting us like, "You're back." And several of them had followed us for our whole trip down to the Bahamas and back. So yeah, it was really nice meeting a lot of old friends and stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Really nice marina. Looked pretty new. Nice location, right downtown Burlington. Easy to walk to places.
Hmm.
I was very impressed. And what's the name of the marina again, Mike?
It's Burlington Harbor Marina. And as you said, located right downtown Burlington. I believe it's maybe 5 years old or 6 years old. It is new. Uh, Floating docks. Uh, you know, easy to get to the pump out the fuel. And one of the better things is the bathrooms and showers and stuff. They're relatively new, and they were renovating a couple of them to upgrade the floors in them and stuff. But yeah, very, very nice. Not quite Homer Smith's with the Italian tiles, but definitely one of the top 3 or 4 marinas in terms of amenities.
Yeah, I would agree. And for me, it worked out really well. I was able to rent a car, and it was a little bit less than a 2-hour drive for me to get home.
Hmm.
So it was a nice way to sort of end the trip. So, Mike, you're in Burlington now, up on a nice, big, beautiful lake. What are your plans for the summer?
Well, plans for the summer basically is what we originally started at years ago when we were on the lake, which is just to enjoy being able to go out on day sails here on the lake. One of the benefits of not moving a boat from place to place is that uh, starting my engines and leaving the marina within 5 minutes, I can have my sails up. And from my marina, we're at the widest part of the lake, which is about 15 miles across. So this is just a huge open area to be able to sail in. And one of the things I want to do is basically touch up my skills actually sailing because, as you know, I'm great at motoring, as you are, but putting up the sails, trimming them correctly, I think we're going to enjoy that. And my wife and I, we have a couple of kids here that we now have grandkids, so she's been looking forward to being able to visit them regularly. So we're going to have sort of a vacation here on Lake Champlain this summer.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, after I got home, I think I was home for 2 days, and then we packed up and went out to our boat in Rhode Island and got the boat in the water and got it all ready to go. I got new sails this year, so I got those sails installed, and I bought those sails from Thurston Sailmakers in Bristol, Rhode Island, and they're a quantum dealer, and they came out and installed the sails, and I've been out and they look great. They perform nice. It's just nice to have new sails. And the mainsail, as like you do, I have a mainsail that rolls up into the mast, and boy, it works really nice when you have new sails. My old one was pretty sticky and jammy, and I had a lot of trouble with it. And now it's just a pleasure to go out and know you can pull the sail out as far as you want it, and single-handedly you can just roll it on up. So that was great.
So I have a question for you. When you replaced your old sails, and we've touched on this earlier because I had a question. Inside your mast, and I don't know what the proper name is, the device that runs from top to bottom that the mast rolls around.
Yes.
I don't know what it's called. Did you make any adjustments to that? Because I know you can tighten or loosen that.
Yes. So when I took my sails off, I noticed that was really loose. And I don't know the proper name for it either, but it's basically a steel rod.
Right.
The leading edge of the sail goes into it because it has a little slot, and that's what holds the sail. But that rod rotates to roll the sail around it. And mine was loose. I mean, it was flopping around in there. And at the bottom of near the bottom of the mast, where just below the boom where all those openings are that you can sort of peek inside.
Right.
There's a turnbuckle there, basically. There's a sleeve that covers that turnbuckle and locks it into place. So you have to raise that sleeve up by loosening a set screw. You can slide the sleeve up, and then you can tighten that turnbuckle. And mine was really loose. I mean, I tightened it by hand. And, I did the good old YouTube University, watched a couple videos. Selden has some out there, and some other people have them out there with tips on how to do this. And I tightened that up because it was loose. So that was something that, I didn't know about.
Right.
And the common word is that if that's loose, it does affect your ability to roll in and roll out your sail from the mast. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something I want to take a look at some point, because as you know, having that sail go in and out of the mast easily is definitely a big benefit.
Yeah.
And I've never adjusted mine either. And I've seen a couple of videos that talk about how it can improve rolling it in and out by tightening that. But it's interesting, when we took the mast down in Hoppeno's and you were there, one of the questions I asked is, should I take the sail out and off of the mast, or can I leave it in? And they were, no, just leave it in. And so in a way, I didn't really have a chance to check it when I got up here, because the sail was already up, and they had no problem with that when I got up here also, by the way, that it was no big deal that the sail was in the mast, because they used a real crane here to put the mast up, which you and I talked about.
So, we saw three different, we at Hoppeno's, we saw a crane. Then at Chipman's, they had we watched them put up two other sailboats masts at Chipman's. And then you saw the one up there in Burlington. And so we saw three different versions of a crane, or I should say maybe three different generations of cranes.
And I might interrupt and say, I use the term crane loosely when we talk about Hoppeno's and Chipman's, because they lifted masts, but I don't know if I put crane as the defining.
They were in 1910. That was a crane.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably. Right. Well, the difference, in the three, I think we've touched on the one, certainly down in Hoppeno's, that they operated manually, and that we watched as these maintenance guys that did it actually had to move the gears by hand on the crane, and we were wondering who was going to lose a finger first in that gear operation. But it worked. And in Chipman's, I think the difference was they only had one person there that was directing the whole thing, and he knew what he was doing. He's the owner of the marina, but he required the boat crew to help him, including a boat crew was running the crane.
Yes.
In terms of shifting gears and turning it on and turning it off, which was interesting. And we didn't discuss, because we didn't have we didn't do one of our talks after we got up here at Safe Harbor in Shelburne, which is where I had the mast put up. They did not fool around. It was professional. It was a real crane. I mean, as a matter of fact, they said they lift 20-ton boats with that crane. That's how big it was. The kind that would lift steel girders for buildings and stuff. And it's their crane that they use. And it was a completely different experience, which was do not get in the way. This is what we do. And they took a lot longer, but they were a lot more careful and very strategic as to how to do this, so that, one, no one got hurt, and two, there was no damage to the boat or the mast. So they were slower, but much more methodical in their process.
Yeah. Well, it all worked out great. And I'm glad you got the mast back up and everything works. All the lights work, all the instruments work, because that's always a
Yes.
challenge when you got to make all those electrical connections at the base of
Uh,
your mast.
yes, it
Yeah.
was. And I when you left Pompanos to go home, I actually started taking apart things at the top of the mast since it was 6 feet up. So I replaced the lights, and once I got here in Burlington, double checked everything because it's easy access. We just cross our fingers that when the mast does go up, everything goes on.
Right.
And it did. And I've actually been sailing. Uh, and I jokingly said to you before that I've almost equaled the amount of sailing hours that it took us 2 months plus traveling with the boat. I equaled that almost in one day here
Yeah.
on the lake.
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue. So I know one of the things you did was put together sort of a summary of facts and figures of the trip from Brunswick, Georgia, all the way up to Burlington, Vermont. And so let's go through some of those facts and figures and numbers.
Sure. Yeah, it was interesting to kind of total that. And one of the numbers, which I think goes to one of the factors when you talk about moving a sailboat or traveling on a sailboat, you can't have a schedule. If you have a schedule and a tight schedule, you're going to be disappointed because things come up that you don't anticipate. So I actually totaled the number of days we moved the boat, whether it was motoring or sailing or offshore or the ICW, that it was a total of 23 days that the boat literally moved. I also totaled the number of days since we started back on April 3rd, and it took us a total of 62 days from the start of the trip to the finish of the trip. So it doesn't take you very hard to figure out that most of the time we weren't moving. Now, I will say this, that we do have to subtract the fact that for about 14 days or so during the Easter week holiday, we both had other things going on with our families. So you can sort of take those 14 days off. But I did figure that out. And that still meant that, we were sitting for 39 days, give or take, uh, for whatever reason. That the weather wasn't right. It was taking us longer. And then I also didn't factor in the fact that I sat for 2 weeks at Hoppano's because the canals and the locks never opened.
Right.
Because we got there the week they were supposed to open. I believe we got there Monday or Tuesday, which gave us 2 or 3 days to get the mast down and leave on May 16th. But they never opened the canals till after Memorial Day, which was almost the beginning of June. So,
Right.
so there was that delay. So, as I said in summary, is be flexible when you're planning a trip like this, and especially the way we were moving the boat is we were not like these captains that are moving boats for owners, where they're hell bent on getting to where they need to go, and we were basically taking our time. And I actually figured it out. We did pretty good. We were averaging about 50 miles per day, which that's pretty good on a sailboat when you consider 5 to 6 knots. I think what really helped us on that was our trip from Virginia all the way to New York City without stopping outside. That we ate up a lot of miles over those 2.5 days that
Right.
we were continuously moving. So, but we stayed mostly at marinas, which is our choice. I think we did 3 overnights where
That's right.
we anchored. And I also figured out the engine hours, that it was 200 engine hours. And that consists of almost the entire trip, because we jokingly said we sailed for maybe a total of 4 hours or 5
Right.
hours. Some of that
Right.
motor sailing. So so that kind of gives you an idea of what to expect. And when I say 200 engine hours, so what you need to figure out, what I figure out from that is managing our fuel intake. So generally, I'm averaging about a gallon, a little less of fuel, a gallon of fuel every hour. So overall, I spent about $500 on fuel to get here, which when you think the total trip was, I'm looking at it now, was almost 1,200 miles. So that's pretty good fuel efficiency when you consider what some of the trawlers and cruisers going by us with two 600 horse engines at 20 knots, eating up 4 to 5 gallons an hour. Fuel, marinas, spent quite a bit on marinas. I was surprised at the total for the marinas. They averaged, give or take, about $100 to $125 a night. So it was about $4,800 in marinas that we spent on that. And food was about $2,000 overall. And tips was $500. That sort of gives you, a rough idea that, moving the boat up here was probably $7,500 plus dollars.
Yeah.
And then there were other odds and ends as well, with things that we needed for the boat.
Right. Right.
But I will say this, that you could do this cheaper by anchoring a lot more, because, as I said, marinas was the single largest. And we also, food-wise, we ate out quite a bit, which is fine. I mean, that was our choice. But in many cases, we had long days, and getting up at 5:30 in the morning, moving the boat starting at 6:30, getting in at 5 o'clock or 5:30, and we're tired. And depending on what the day, especially going through the locks, is, you just don't feel like sitting down and starting to prepare meals at 6:30 at night. And when there's a marina restaurant 20 feet away, or a dinosaur barbecue, as in Troy, we opted for that, and that's fine. And that's a personal decision. I didn't total our ice cream costs though, and you paid for a lot of the ice cream, so that would be something you'd have to total, because jokingly, Bela's job when we pulled into a marina after I found a place to eat was to find the ice cream place afterwards.
And I did quite well. I think we had ice cream in pretty much almost every location.
We did. Oh, and one last thing. We went under over 100 bridges. And anybody that has a sailboat, need I say, that is always one of those angst moments, depending on what your height is. But again, not to go through the whole bridge thing, but fixed bridges are 65 feet technically, depending on the water levels, and a lot of them aren't marked properly. So there's always the question, will we fit? Fortunately, I'm at 61 and a half. So generally, it was not a problem. We did ping on one bridge over those 100. And then the other challenge is the bridges that were swing bridges that would open for us. Naturally, motorboats, most of them could go under without requesting an opening. We had to request openings, and that was always an interesting process, depending on how nice the bridge tender was, what type of bridge, whether it was a swing bridge or any number of different types of bridges. It's interesting how there's about a half a dozen different varieties. So we did over 100 bridges.
Wow. I as I was listening to you go through that stuff, I don't think I would want to do that trip quickly, because to me, part of the enjoyment was, go into a nice place in a nice marina like Beaufort, I think it's my favorite place on the whole trip. And we spent like 3 or 4 days there. Yeah, we
Yes.
were waiting for weather, but it was a wonderful, beautiful place to sort of hang out for 2 or 3 days.
Yes.
And one of the things I enjoy, most of the times we'd pull into someplace, I would try to go for a run.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always a great way to see the town.
Right.
I go for a run. And I really enjoyed that sort of slow pace. Okay, we're going to spend 2 or 3 days here, or maybe just one day. But I think that's part of it's the journey, right? It's not okay, I got to get,
Right.
I wouldn't want to be a delivery captain, I guess is maybe what I'm trying to say. I wouldn't want to be just trying to push and get to the end really quick. I enjoy the journey. And, if you don't enjoy the journey, then you shouldn't get a sailboat. That's for sure.
No, I think you're right. And that's part of why it took us as long as it did. Because yes, we did see delivery captains who were going outside no matter what the weather. They were moving that boat and they were going as far as humanly possible every single day because I guess in their world, time is money.
Right.
But yes, we did get to enjoy certain places. And one other thing I did want to mention, because we did use marinas quite a bit, is overall, we were charged anywhere from, I believe one marina, if it was on the Hudson, was less than $1 a foot.
Yeah.
Because I think I paid like 70 some dollars for that marina. I think it was like 75 cents a foot or something. Now, he didn't have a lot of services, but still. And we paid up to $4 a foot at a couple of marinas. And I will say, I figured out that the amount they charge you does not equal the amount of services and what I'll call just customer service at these marinas. As a matter of fact, some of the cheaper ones had better customer service than the most expensive. And I keep picking on, and I will keep picking a bit on Charleston, which it was the highest priced marina, and they had probably some of the worst customer service there. That just not very good, and yet some of the cheapest. And in some cases they weren't fancy. The docks needed work. I believe when we were at was that Schuyler, where you noticed that the electrical box was smoking in the morning because all the raw wires were running through the water.
Right.
That was providing dock power. But yet the owner couldn't have been nicer. They're trying to upgrade the marina. They had a great restaurant there, and just as nice as could be. So don't equate price to service with marinas, and check things out in advance if you can, because if you're looking, and I have to say my marina here in Burlington is first class all the way around in terms of cleanliness and everything. Great docks. The pedestals are all wonderful. They actually clean the pedestals almost every day of spider webs, and you know how bad that can get.
Wow.
But from that to going to places where the pedestals are leaning and the docks are creaky, so depending on what your likes and needs are, check that out. But even some of those surpass their physical challenges with the customer service. So and we saw a little bit of everything on this trip.
We sure did. And it is remarkable to me the wide range or variability of customer service and marinas. Some are where you are now, beautiful, well maintained. They take care of the spider webs, and other places were like, well, this is the only place we can stop, so we're stopping.
Yes.
And normally I wouldn't stop there, but you know what? Some of those turned out to be the best experiences.
Yeah.
The people were the nicest, like as you were saying. And those are the ones, quite honestly, that I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember that smoking electrical box laying in the wet grass.
Yes. And I think another highlight for you was I forget the name of the marina on the Hudson, where the guy would get on the radio and yell at the boats that were waking the marina. And then
Right.
he had this manual system of getting my credit card, and he was on his hands and knees on the dock, punching in the numbers one at a time.
Yes.
Took like 15 minutes to charge, but I think that was where it was like $75,
Yeah.
where it was less than $1 a foot or something.
Yeah, that was the marina at Poughkeepsie.
Yes.
And had a great restaurant right there.
Yeah.
That we had dinner at and stuff. And that was again, it was a memorable, right? We'll remember that. So,
Right.
So here's I just want to, here's sort of my thoughts on the whole trip. My number one conclusion is that, because we did run into a couple of glitches along the way. We had our freshwater strainer get clogged, and we had no cooling water to the engine. We had to figure that thing out.
Mm-hmm.
We had the thing in Whitehall with all of the logs and the engine propeller jammed with a log jammed in it. We had to figure that out. And in both of those cases, we got really lucky. And we had a couple of other things going, along the way. So one of the conclusions, the light finally went off in my thick skull, that if you don't get satisfaction from solving problems, don't get a boat. Unless you're going to hire a crew to run the boat for you, right? But if you're the type of individual that sees a problem or sees something that needs solving, and you get enjoyment and satisfaction out of that, then, because I find that rewarding. Like when we figured out, oh, Mike has a compressor, we can blow air through this hose down through where the seacock is and blow the seaweed out of the seacock, right? That was like, oh, that was really good. And after we did that, I felt I got this little rush, of euphoria. It's like, hey, we figured that out. And the same thing is true when that log was jammed in the propeller, and you're down below and you get big monkey wrench on the drive shaft and you're moving it back and forth and it's free, and yay, that was really good.
I will say, yes, that is that high point. But before, when we stalled in the middle of the canals, or when we were getting bashed by logs, I wasn't quite as enthusiastic about the problem solving stuff. But you're right. And, that brings up another thing. And we've talked about this on our whole trip. Learn and know your boat. Because, as you were putting it, we problem solved because we understood the functioning of our boat. That when we stalled and we weren't getting water into the engine, we knew how the water system on our boats, our boats are basically the same, but all sailboats are, work the same way with an impeller in the water coming into the engine. We understood how it worked, where the water came in, how it went into the engine, and how it went out. So we were able to problem solve because we understood that. The same with when the log got jammed into the prop. I mean, how many people know that you go down to the drive shaft with a big monkey wrench and start twisting it backwards to dislodge something? And that only comes from experience, even knowing where to go, because I adjust the stuffing box on my boat a lot to make sure it's dripping the correct way. So I think that's an important part. And, I'll mention this, is that where I am now in Burlington are mostly weekend sailors. They have their boats, they put them on the lake for 3 months. They go out maybe once every other week. And one of the people that I knew fairly well from when I was here, he came over and his wife wasn't available. He said, Mike, do you want to go out with me? And I said, sure, I'll go out. And it's a very nice boat. It's almost a brand new Beneteau, 31 foot, I believe. And as you know, I have this whole checklist I go through before I go out, making sure this is done. We turn this on, turn that off, the whole bit. And the first question I asked him, I said, "Did you open the seacock to make sure you're getting water to the engine?" He goes, "What's that?"
Yeah.
And I go, "Like the seacock that puts water into your engine. Like, is it open?" He says, "It must be because I've never touched it." And,
Yeah.
and it just kind of hit me. There is someone that spent a lot of money on a boat and is a weekend sailor, but didn't know where that was. And
But you
he
know
asked
what? It works for him.
it. But you see, I started to educate him, which then made him nervous about all these things that you worry about on a boat. Uh,
Exactly.
but
See, he never worried about that before. Now he's like, oh my God, I got to worry about all these things.
and we couldn't find it, by the way. But it would have meant taking up, opening up areas that required screwdrivers and stuff. But yeah, it kind of hit me that the type of sailing that we do, with actually traveling on a boat and living on a boat is completely different than going out
Yeah.
for a Saturday afternoon. So, but it just kind of hit me at that point. But yeah, so know your boat. I think it's important. Then you can solve some of these things, especially when there's no one there to help you.
Yeah. You have to make a decision for yourself on how self-sufficient and self-reliant you want to be. And certainly, there are some places where if you break down, in 15 minutes, somebody can be there to tow you back to your marina. There's other places where if you break down, there's nobody coming, or at least not for a while. You might spend, a day there. Like I was thinking about the canal, right? How is someone going to come get you there?
Especially when the locks aren't even opening,
Right,
because
right. You're stuck
there's
between
nobody
two
there.
locks. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Well, Mike,
it is a
go ahead.
comforting thing, knowing that, and when you were saying that, knowing that someone would come, because ironically, where my marina sits in Burlington, right behind us, I could throw a
Right,
stone and hit the Coast Guard station with their
right.
4 or 5 boats that are sitting there.
Yes,
So yeah, there is some comfort in knowing that help is right around the corner.
exactly. Exactly. Well, let's start wrapping this up, Mike. And so I have a couple of kind of closing thoughts here. One is it was a great trip. I really, really enjoyed it. I thank you so much for inviting me and making that phone call and saying, "Hey, would you be interested?" Not just for inviting me, but also for trusting me to help you move your boat, because there's a lot of responsibility in doing something like that. So I really appreciate you trusting me to do that. And the thing that's come out of this for me is not just a great trip and a great experience, but we now have a great friendship for life, I hope, right? And we spent a lot of time together, and I would say 95% of the times it was great. I only swore at you once, I think. And I did it on a hot mic.
Yeah.
So so it overall it was great, and I really appreciate it, and I'm really grateful and thankful that you invited me.
Well, the feeling is mutual, because what I was going to say getting out of this is I got really lucky, and I'm glad I asked you, because, when you ask someone to move your boat, it's not just knowing the boat, but the fact that you're living together in a relatively small space with limited resources, so to speak. And geez, if you don't get along, things can get out of hand quite quickly. And we were able to manage, as you said, with minor eruptions. But I mean, hey, at our age, we always get frustrated at certain things. But no, I wouldn't have a second thought of calling you again if I ever decide to move the boat. My wife right now is giving me the evil eye because we're not moving a boat. I love the term when I say we, because we means me,
Yeah.
as opposed to my wife and I. But yes, and out of this, the best thing out of this was a new friendship. And you were just great on the trip. And when there were those moments where there was some angst because of whether a bridge was a problem or current or bouncing around in the waves, or when the boat stalled, you were a calming factor. You didn't get excited. And which reminds me of your famous saying, you didn't get excited because it's not my boat.
Right.
So,
Yes.
but no, thank you very much for doing that. And I was caught off guard when I first called you, expecting you to say, well, let me see and let me look at this. And you said, oh, I'll go. So it was a quick answer. So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
You're very welcome, Mike. Thanks for doing all
Good.
these podcasts, and I hope all of our listeners enjoy them and can get from the podcast all the enjoyment, or at least some of the enjoyment that we got from doing this trip together.
Yeah, and hopefully there is some learning that can be gained. And on the other hand, is just knowing that you're not alone when you're moving a boat with all the things that you face and things that go wrong and the bridges and shallow spots. It's just, it's not a vacation, it's an adventure. So
Sure.
thanks again, and I really enjoyed it, and let's keep in touch.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. And as always, if you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to contact us at sailingtheeast, that's all one word, at gmail.com. That's sailingtheeast at gmail.com. Thanks for listening.